Good afternoon. I'd like to call our meeting to order with a quick roll call. Regent Acker.
Present.
Regent Beam. Here. Regent Bernstein. Regent Brown.
Here.
Regent Hubbard.
Here.
Regent Illich. Regent Weiser. Here. Regent White.
Here.
Thank you. Well, at the beginning of the new school year, it's appropriate to start today's meeting with a moment of gratitude and memory. As all of you are aware, University of Michigan President Emeritus James Duderstadt passed away last month, an inestimable loss to our university and our community. Dr. Duderstadt led with exceptional vision and extraordinary energy. He had a transformative impact at the University of Michigan, and he leaves behind a profound and lasting legacy. Would you join me in offering our gratitude in honoring Dr. Duderstadt's memory with a moment of silence? Thank you. Last week, we also lost a dear friend of the university. Greg Arden was a counselor and a coach, an advisor, and a mentor and a leader. His impact went far beyond national championships and Super Bowl winning athletes. He touched untold lives, and he made our university, our community, and the world a better, brighter place. Could I ask you to please celebrate his life with a moment of silence? Thank you very much. Now, looking forward, we would like to express our profound gratitude to Regent Ron Weiser, who has made yet another generous and extraordinary gift to the University of Michigan. He has provided $25 million to the Weiser Family Breast Cancer Research Center, a gift that will speed new discoveries, open new insights, and further empower our world-class researchers to provide compassionate and personalized breast cancer care, even as it strengthens the place of Michigan medicine as one of the nation's leading medical centers. Ultimately, this gift will lead to the treatment, healing, and transformation of women's lives. So thank you again, Regent Weiser. It is also thanks to our regents that our acclaimed Michigan Marching Band has recently begun rehearsing at our new state-of-the-art Albel Field facility. And I can tell you from speaking to the band members as well as the band director and conductor that they are thrilled. The regents approved this project last year, and now if you go by at the right time in the afternoon, you can hear and see our band practicing for the next big game. In addition, I would like to thank Vice President and General Counsel Tim Lynch and the members of the Committee on the University of Michigan Principles on Diversity of Thought and Freedom of Expression for their diligence and dedication, and for the thought and deliberation and engagement with our entire community that went into the report that they issued on Tuesday, which aims to strengthen diversity of thought at our university. I'm so pleased by the breadth of expertise and cross-disciplinary collaboration of the Principals Committee, which included 32 faculty members from 12 different colleges and schools, as well as a librarian, 7 staff members, and 2 students. And I'm so grateful for the tremendous engagement we had across our entire community, with more than 4,000 comments received, of which I understand, Timothy, that you read every single one. In addition, our participating programs, again, are performing highly in national rankings thanks to the tremendous work of our professors and students. According to U.S. News and World Report, University of Michigan remains one of the premier universities in the country for graduate education. We were also ranked as one of Princeton Review's 390 best colleges, as well as number 7 for return on investment among all universities. The Wall Street Journal also ranked us as one of the top public universities in the country. We have so much to look forward to this upcoming year. I'm especially excited about the launch of part of our strategic vision, the Year of Democracy, Civic Empowerment, and Global Engagement, which we'll be hearing more about later in our meeting. So thank you all for joining us either in person or virtually, and let's go on to the rest of the business for the afternoon. We will begin with our presentations, followed by reports from our Regent committees. Provost and EVP for Academic Affairs, Lori McCauley, will introduce the presentation, the Year of Democracy, Civic Empowerment, and Global Engagement. Over to you.
Thank you, President Ono. It is my pleasure to introduce Professor Jenna Bednar. Professor Bednar is a political scientist, author, and professor of public policy in the Ford School, professor of political science in the College of Literature, Science, and the Arts, and a research professor at the Center for Political Studies in the Institute for Social Research. She is co-chair of the Year of Democracy, Civic Empowerment, and Global Engagement Initiative, and has been highly active in the Vision 2034 pillar on democracy, civic, and global engagement. She recently joined the Office of the Provost as the faculty director of UMich Votes and Democratic Engagement. Professor Bednar's academic work concerns federalism and democratic structures and the factors that make democracies resilient. This includes topics like robust democratic system design, the interdependence of norms, culture, and institutions, and place-based public policy to support human social flourishing. Professor Bednar recently served as a subcommittee chair on the Committee on the University of Michigan Principles on Diversity and of Thought and Freedom of Expression. Welcome, Professor Bednar.
Thank you, Provost McCauley. Thank you, President Ono, for the invitation, and Regents for being here, and fellow Wolverines everywhere, whether you are, whether in this room or dialing in. It's just an honor both to be serving as co-chair of this Year of Democracy, Civic Empowerment, and Global Engagement, and to be updating you on what we're doing. And I am here representing my co-chairs, Dean Rosie Sabayo and Dean Celeste Watkins-Hayes, who are unable to be here today. So over the summer, when Celeste and I were first thinking, after the invitation from President Ono, first thinking about what a year of democracy might be, we knew that we did not want to have just a year of events. We're good at events, but this is a university that creates and disseminates knowledge. And so we wanted to take advantage of that and also think about how we can be a force for triggering a lifelong engagement with being an agent in our democracy, and also build up a sense of community on campus that values democracy. And for us, valuing democracy means absolutely valuing difference. But democracy depends on diversity, depends on diverse perspectives. So it was that guiding sense that framed the way that we approached building out this year. So we have, in addition to the 3 co-chairs, we have an academic leadership group or a steering committee. Some people are in the room today, but I'll just list who they are. Lynette Clementson from the Wallace House, Andrea Forte, Dean of School of Information, Tess Eastman from Development, Tim Lynch at the table here, Tina Olson from the museum, Valeria Butarcho, Vice Provost for Engaged Learning, and Tabby Chavez. and we're just delighted to have them as partners. I have also built out a planning committee of faculty and staff who are really working on implementing it. So in building this up, we have a set of programs that really are the backbone of what we're doing. We are supporting research, wanting to lift up the amazing tradition and democratic research that exists on this campus and make us be the leader in leading university in democracy-related research going forward. And a piece of this is also, I'm working with Skip at the table here on building up some pretty significant presidential awards to promote research on democracy for our faculty. But at the same time, remember, we're aiming to trigger and support student engagement, feeling that building up a sense of confidence and agency, and that a piece of that has to do with a generous internship program. And then because, as with this frame, then we can turn back and think about the kind of events programming that either we are planning or that we are supporting through the many units across campus that are engaged in building up a culture of democracy. And in particular, we're featuring events that encourage our audiences to have experiences that put them in positions of understanding across difference and listening across difference, and maybe coming to value that. In addition, with the other hat that I wear is, as UMich Votes faculty director, we are building out what you see here is some faculty resources to support their efforts within the classroom to inform our students about all of the opportunities available on this campus to get engaged in the upcoming election. And I hope many of you will go starting Tuesday at the museum, at UMA, the museum on campus. We have a campus voting hub, and then in mid-October, one will open up at the Duderstadt Gallery. Again, a place where you can take care of all of your voting business. It's a tremendous opportunity that we have on this campus. And then also in support of research, curriculum development, and events, we're making available small and medium-sized grants on application with an invitation to all units on campus. And those applications are starting to roll in. Just this morning, I green-lighted our co-sponsorship of something through LS&A, a program that Tim McKay is getting going on holding difficult dialogues, trying again to build up this respect across difference and recognizing that that can be hard. And so we can have training programs to help all of us, our whole community, build that up. And so I welcome all of you to reach out for any of our units. If they are interested in partnering us, there are lots of opportunities, or reach out to mdemocracy@umich.edu and let us know your ideas. Thanks very much.
Professor, before you sit down, I just wanted to ask you a couple. Yeah, no problem. So in 2022, Regent Beam and I brought pizzas for our students in line. And we just want to tell you, first of all, we are happy to do that again to make sure students vote. But I guess the question for you is, unlike in 2018, 2016, where we had, it was election day, right?
Yeah.
Now we have election almost 6 weeks. What are we doing to make sure that students know that, so that we don't have that rush of students on November 5th again this year?
All right. Thank you for raising this. Anybody who was around in 2022 might remember with both horror and pride the long lines at UMA and the Dude. So Michigan law says as long as you're in line before the polls close, 8 p.m., you can stay in line and you can vote. So they did, our students, and they were amazing until 2 a.m.
Yep.
2 a.m. And so there were people who brought pizza, thank you, blankets, a band showed up at one point. Yeah. Anyway, so when we were building this website, somebody suggested that we use an image from that. Like, oh God, no, because that is not what we want to repeat. So thank goodness this year we have essentially 40 days of voting. You can go pick up an absentee ballot, fill it out with, looking everything up so you know that you're voting in an informed way, and then drop it off. If you are a voter in the city of Ann Arbor, you can drop it off at the UMA or the DUDE locations. So that's one. And then new this year is 9 days of early voting. This is statewide, but in the city of Ann Arbor, if you are registered to vote in the city of Ann Arbor, you can go and vote at one of the libraries or at the UMA location or the DUDE. So to get back to your question, which is how are we getting this word out, we think it's really important. So that one slide that I put up that was from UMich Votes, it's a set of 5 slides. One of them, because we don't expect our faculty to know, possibly some of you in this room don't know all about all these electoral changes. So we're trying to get the word out through these slides. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I understand, Regent Bernstein, you're on Zoom.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Regent Bernstein. I'd now like to invite our regents to provide their committee reports. Regent White.
Thank you, President Ono. Regents Hubbard, Bernstein, White, Weiser, Brown, and Beam met this morning for a discussion with the Finance, Audit, and Investment Committee jointly with the Health Affairs Committee. And we discussed financial issues and plans for the future growth of the University of Michigan Health and System and the university. Also in attendance were members of the Health staff and faculty and university leadership. The FAI committee also reviewed reports, including the RFP for an auditor and an update on the current budget.
Thank you very much, Regent White. Regent Beam, do you have a report from the Health Affairs Committee?
I do. Thanks, President Ono. The Health Affairs Committee met and discussed future planning within U of M Health. We also received a number of updates on budget, staffing, a variety of metrics, and recent accolades received by the health system.
Thank you very much, Regent Beam. Regent Acker, do you have a report from the Personnel, Compensation, and Governance Committee?
I do. Thank you, President Ono. The Personnel, Compensation, and Governance Committee, including Regents Acker, Illich, and White, met this morning and reviewed information on a project to review and update the Regents' bylaws. We also discussed the university's important and changing relationship with the U of M Alumni Association. We reviewed a calendar of future Regent meetings and an update on a personnel matter.
Thank you very much, Regent Acker. We will now move on to items 3 to 21. Oh, I'm so sorry. Regent
Would this be a good time to make a comment on the principals? Oh, okay. Oh, that's coming later.
I'll let
okay.
you know.
Okay.
Great.
Thank you for your enthusiasm.
All right. I thought that was coming next.
Items 3 to 21 are conflict of interest items, each of which requires 6 votes for approval. Does anyone have any questions or the need to request recusal from voting on any of those items 3 to 21? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you. The motion, please, show of hands, please. All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Same sign. Anyone abstaining? Same sign. Regent Bernstein, since I can't see you, can you verbalize your?
I am. I'm raising my hand and I support.
Thank you so much. I couldn't see it, but I appreciate that. Items 3 through 21 pass unanimously. We will now move on to the consent agenda and reports. And Regent Hubbard, you'll be happy to hear that Vice President and General Counsel Tim Lynch will now give a report on the Principals Committee.
Thank you so much, President Ono. I'm very happy to be speaking on behalf of all the members of the Advisory Committee on the University of Michigan Principles on Diversity of Thought and Freedom of Expression. And thank you so much for your kind words. The committee was very proud to be able to release its 131-page report this week in very small print. I know many of you have read it word for word, and I encourage all of you to do so because It represents the work, the tremendous work of our entire academic community, faculty, staff, students, a librarian, a very important librarian, across all 3 campuses, including Flint, Dearborn, and our academic medical center at Michigan Medicine. Had 32 faculty members, 7 staff, the librarian, and 2 students. And it reflected true diversity of thought in expertise and in location. And at the January board meeting, President Ono, where the board enacted or adopted the principles on diversity of thought and freedom of expression at a special meeting, you directed me to chair a faculty, staff, and student committee to report back to you and the board on 3 questions. How is the university doing in terms of living up to the aspirations in the principles? Second, what can we do better? And third, should the university adopt some version of the Calvin Report, which sets up a strong presumption that the university will not issue institutional statements on social or political matters that are not directly related to the university's functions? And I'm pleased today to come back to you with the committee's answers and recommendations on all those 3 questions. But if I may, I'd like to talk a little bit about the process, because I think it's very important and it shows how and why this was well done. And I want to say to the community, if they didn't know, that this all began with a faculty meeting with President Ono at the law school, where President Ono was asked, would you be willing to encourage the Board of Regents to adopt the Chicago Statement on Freedom of Expression? And President Ono said to the faculty, we should adopt our own Michigan-based statement that's even more speech protective. And it was that answer to the faculty question that launched us on this process. Shortly thereafter, I began work with 5 faculty members from the law school and LSA to draft the first versions of the principles on diversity of thought and freedom of expression. They were shared with the executive leadership team, with the deans. They were shared with faculty and staff around the community. And finally, they were put out for public comment in October. We had excellent community participation, and the version that was adopted by the board in January reflected very important changes that we received from the community. After January, we put together this principals committee with the diverse membership. I do want to thank Jenna Bednar, who was the chair of the first subcommittee. I'd also like to thank Mika Lavakumanti from LSA, who was the chair of the second subcommittee, and Christina Daugertis from the law school, who was the chair of the third subcommittee. What I also want to do, I want to give a thank you to my SACUA General Counsel Advisory Committee for all the great discussions we had on issues of diversity of thought and freedom of expression on the university. And that was pretty much what we've spent the entire year last year discussing. And those comments and conversations were just so helpful. I also want to acknowledge on this principals committee, as it became known, some really significant examples of good collaboration and faculty governance. We had the three past chairs of SACUA on the Principals Committee, Colleen Conway, Alan Liu, and Tom Brown. In terms of student representation, we had the previous chair of CSG, Mira Hurl, and the current president of Rackham CSG, Angelica Previero. A big part of how and why this report, I think, will stand the test of time is that Subcommittee 1 decided to answer the question of how we're doing by asking the community. The Subcommittee 1 put out a request for comments on a number of questions related to diversity of thought and freedom of expression here at the university. And we were so thrilled that more than 4,000 of our community members wrote back. And I can share that those comments had a tremendous effect on the work and on the quality of all of the reports that you see that came in from the subcommittees. All of the comments were read by at least 2 members of each subcommittee. And I can say, and yes, I did read them all, as my wife can say, at my dining room table. What I would say about them is that all of us should be proud of what our community had to say. Thoughtful, opinionated, angry, great ideas. It is exactly what you'd want to see from an academic community, the thoughtfulness that went into those answers. They were inspiring, and I really, I was touched by what a wonderful place this is, yet again, to see the thoughtfulness of it. So I think we would all be proud to know of that. So I want to talk briefly about the findings and recommendations. The first subcommittee found what it called a complicated or complex picture of freedom of expression and diversity of thought. what they found was, in addition to understandable, based on the timing, concerns about the university's responses to protest, they found that there was significant constraints on free speech and diversity of thought that covered all three roles on campus. Our faculty were concerned about sharing their views. They were concerned about how their colleagues would treat them, and they were concerned about how their students would react. Our students were concerned about sharing their views because they were worried about being shunned by their students and fellow students, and also concerned about grades from their professors. And our staff were concerned about sharing views because of fear of losing their jobs. So these are three, our community members and the way they expressed their thoughts, and we need to take those views seriously, as we will. The second subcommittee's recommendations, they focused on what they called building a pluralism initiative, to call on all of the schools and colleges to bring together students and faculty and staff to make sure that we're representing a wide range of voices, that we are working on dialogue and some of the things Professor Bednar was just mentioning. And so this is going to be important work, including a recommendation that there be a course for all incoming students that would teach the virtues of civil discourse and freedom of expression and diversity of thought, and give our students tools to engage in good argument. The third subcommittee recommends that the University of Michigan adopt a very strong version of the Calvin Report. That is, that the university no longer issue institutional statements on social or political matters that are not directly related to the university's functions. And that subcommittee recommended that the lack of institutional statements, that policy of not issuing them, apply not just to the leadership, but to deans and chairs and directors. It is a very comprehensive report. And what I would say about the whole report is there is much more work to be done for us to live up to the principles. You and the board have set down very high goals for us as a university. They are the kind of goals a great public university should take on. And what I can say is that the report is already generating significant debate and discussion, and those are wonderful things. So I want to thank you, President Ono. I want to thank the board, my executive colleagues. I want to thank all the members of the Principals Committee, and I want to thank especially everyone in the community who contributed their voices that made such a difference. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Tim. May I just ask you, what would you recommend as a path forward?
I think that what the message we've heard from the community is they care deeply about this, and they want us to continue focusing on it from this table, but that it also be a dialogue from our faculty, staff, and students engaged. I mean, there are great recommendations in the report. I think the pluralism initiative is really important. This is a great place. As a public university, we are in the best position to be the place known for this work. But I would encourage that one step forward is I would encourage everyone in the community to read the report. One of the things you'll see is there really is diversity of thought here right now. People think entirely across the entire spectrum, and we can also do better to make sure people feel comfortable sharing their views.
Wonderful. And how might we receive that feedback from the dialogues that occur?
I think what we can do is to continued forums to hear from our community, the kind of meetings that you were doing, office hours. We have our SACUA respective meetings where we have people from faculty and staff coming and sharing their views with us. I think also one thing we can do, we have the best survey research center in the country at ISR, and one of the recommendations of the report is that we do semi-annual surveys, that let's have our ISR folks draft a good survey instrument and find out, are we moving the needle? Are we doing what we need to do? So I think that could be a great contribution as well, President Ono.
Thank you very much. Regent Hubbard.
Well, thank you, President Ono. And I just wanted to start out by saying thank you, Tim, for all your hard work on this report. I did read it. There's even highlighting in it to show that I went through it. But I really appreciate all of this. And I just had a few comments and some feedback on it I wanted to share with you and everyone else. So, You know, it should really not be a surprise to anyone to learn that we're a pretty liberal place, that Michigan is a liberal public university. But what's especially important is that Michigan is the only place that's had the courage to take a critical look at challenges to diversity of thought, the actual facts on the ground, and to be entirely open and transparent about its strengths and weaknesses. And that's what great institutions do. And it's the only way great institutions can change for the better. The report has given us thoughtful recommendations to foster more diversity of thought and protect free speech. My colleagues and I have been studying them carefully, and we will continue to do so. And I hope Tim and the rest of the faculty on the Principals Committee will continue to push these recommendations forward. I'm particularly intrigued with the idea of having a new required course for all new students that gives students the tools to think critically, to argue across difference, to understand the weaknesses of our arguments and the strengths of our opponents' arguments, and most importantly, to understand the values of diversity of thought and freedom of expression in a democracy. I would like to see efforts on this sponsored by the provost so that such a course could begin for all incoming students during the 2025 academic year. One additional important value of this report is that it shows to faculty, staff, and students that there really are people at the university who think differently and who are conservatives, who are libertarians, and who are people of faith, who are liberals, but who also want to hear from a diverse range of speakers. You may not be a part of the dominant discourse, but you are far from alone. So the good news is that we actually do have diversity of thought here. People think things across the entire spectrum of ideas, but that diversity of views is not expressed enough out loud. It's not heard or seen enough. It's not reflected in our courses or in faculty in a great way. It's not always recognized in university-wide awards, and it's not recognized enough in our messaging to our campus community, and that's something that I hope that we can work together on. It's constrained by our culture, where faculty fear being ostracized, and we've seen that in many of the comments, fear being ostracized by peers or students fear getting bad grades or being shunned, and we've been living through that for the last several months. We're not alone at Michigan in facing these constraints, but if we're to be leaders and best, we can and must take steps to create a different intellectual environment, one where our faculty, our students, and our staff do feel comfortable sharing their views. We also need to look closely at university policies and practices, and we are doing that, and we're committed to do that. But are there things we're doing that are having the effect of making people unwilling to share their views? Are we making people feel like they have to speak in certain ways to get tenure or jobs or awards, that they must subscribe to certain views? And finally, I found the analysis in Subcommittee 3 nuanced and very thoughtful. As that subcommittee notes, and I'll quote here, institutional statements disserve the university's mission. They undermine our commitment to open inquiry by suggesting that those who disagree are unwelcome. They cause would-be dissenters to worry that voicing disagreement may jeopardize admission, grades, or advancement. The risk is especially acute for statements issued by or on behalf of departments or other units that make up the university because of the closer connections among the individuals within those units. And that's exactly right. If we believe in diversity of thought and freedom of expression, we should not be crowding out voices by suggesting that everyone thinks alike. Institutional neutrality is the position that is the most supportive of faculty. It says you, the experts and scholars, should be the ones engaged in public debate and discourse. You should move knowledge and fields forward. It's not up to the chairs, deans, or administrators to make those arguments. It's up to you. So I'm looking forward to more feedback from the university community over the next few weeks on this report, but I also believe the university should adopt a strong, comprehensive version of the Calvin report, which is what Subcommittee 3 recommends, and we could do that at our next Board of Regents meeting in October. So I ask you, Vice President Lynch, to prepare a draft Regents bylaw that would commit the university to institutional neutrality on political and social issues, unless they have a direct impact on internal university operations. And I just want to make clear that institutional neutrality does not stop anyone from speaking out in their own voice, on their own, and making their own statements, whether it's at this table or elsewhere, but is really more about the university in general. And so further, I ask you to put a draft bylaw out for public comment, which the board can consider before the October meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Regent Hubbard. All right, I just want to acknowledge that Regent Illich is also on Zoom. Regent Illich, I'm sorry I didn't know that you were on Zoom. And I just wanted to confirm your vote regarding the consent agenda items. Oh, okay. We'll determine that some other way. All right. EVP Marshall Runge will be like to offer a few comments about the Weiser Center.
Thank you, President. So following up on
Santa, I'm sorry. Yes.
Oh,
Yes,
yes,
Santa. I apologize
those were my
for
silent
interrupting.
comments.
You couldn't hear me, but I did vote.
thank you so much. We have noted that vote. Thank you so much, Regent Illich.
Thank you.
Back to you, Marshall.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you, President Ono. So following up on President Ono's comments about the Weiser Center, I wanted to make a few additional comments. This center and this gift promises to bring hope to the 8,000 Michiganders diagnosed with cancer every year. That's 8,000 out of the 310,000 Americans. And this is going to enable the development of a real national leadership in breast cancer research and care. It'll elevate our ability to provide world-class treatment and expand global knowledge on the diagnosis and treatment. And in addition, it's going to synergize extremely well with the Rogel Cancer Center, really establishing us as the place to be to come for state-of-the-art cancer care. So we'll give Regent Weiser another round of applause and thank him for expressing, and we'd like to express our deepest gratitude from Michigan Medicine and the entire university for this incredible, extraordinary commitment and support. And then, while I have the mic, I wanted to make a couple of comments about Michigan Medicine. So we've had some real positive feedback recently. We received a 5-star rating for quality, safety, timeliness, and value from the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. This was the 6th year in a row. U.S. News & World Report rated us the best hospital in Michigan and among the top in many specialties nationwide. We're ranked first in Michigan, top 10 in the United States, and 37th in the world for healthcare delivery by Newsweek. Finally, Forbes named UM Health as the best healthcare employer in Michigan, based on a survey of over 160,000 employees. And Michigan Medicine was also honored as one of Metro Detroit's best and brightest companies to work for in 2024. That's a tribute to all our fantastic staff in every healthcare area, our faculty, and our leadership at Michigan Medicine.
Thank you very much for that report. While we're on the topic of the health system, I would like to introduce a supplemental personnel item for the Board of Regents consideration today as part of the consent agenda, which has just been approved. This relates to, first, I want to thank you, Marshall, for your extraordinary leadership as EVPMA, CEO of Michigan Medicine, and Dean of Medicine. I know you're not leaving until July of next year, but it's been really one of the joys of my time here at the University of Michigan to be able to work with you. And we're working on a lot of exciting things, and I know that we're going to work together until the very last moment to get those across the line.
Thank you. It's been a tremendous privilege to serve the university, and I look forward to serving it for a bit more.
Absolutely. But since you will be departing in the not too distant future, I have very exciting news for the university. As you know, I've been going through a wide consultation process to think about the future of Michigan Medicine, the health system, and our esteemed medical school. And through that process, a number of things came forward, but one thing was loud and clear, and that is that we have in our midst a national leader, someone who inspires people, somebody who brings people together, somebody whose future whose future with us will ensure that the future of Michigan Medicine and the medical school will shine even brighter into the future. It is with great pleasure to put forward Dr. David Miller to become the next Executive Vice President for Medical Affairs at the University of Michigan and Chief Executive Officer of Michigan Medicine, effective July 1st, 2025. Before you applaud, Dr. Miller currently serves as the president of University of Michigan Health, an executive vice dean of clinical affairs for the medical school. David is an extraordinary leader, a brilliant researcher, and the kind of doctor we all hope for when we need exemplary care. And I can tell you that I've benefited as a patient as well. His robust clinical background, his collaborative and empathetic approach, his understanding of the intricacies of patient care, and his strong strategic vision make him the clear choice for this incredibly important leadership role at the University of Michigan. I am confident, Marshall, that David will take the baton from you and continue to build upon all that you've done for the University of Michigan. And I understand that David and his wife, Inga, are here with us today. And could I ask them both to stand so we can give them a round of applause? We're incredibly thrilled, and you really are a Michigan man, and your family. Everywhere I go, I see you, David, and I got to tell you that everyone I speak to speaks highly of you, which I've never seen in anybody else, which is pretty remarkable. And we're lucky to have you and your family, Inga. We'll celebrate appropriate at the right moment, but once again, congratulations. Regent Brown.
Yeah, I'd like to comment on a few things. This is obviously hospital related. First of all, on Regent Weiser's gift for breast cancer research, a disease that has touched my family. I've been around the Board of Regents since I was a little kid, and there has not been a regent that has had a greater impact on this university than Regent Weiser. You set the bar so high for all of us. I know we'll work hard at it, but no one will ever surpass you in impact. It's amazing. So thank you again. Marshall, we will have time to celebrate you in the future, but the reason why we're so excited for Dr. Miller is because you have put us in such a great place to continue to succeed. In terms of Dr. Miller, I have worked closely with David since I joined the board. Without a doubt, he's the employee that I speak to way more than any other. University Matters, probably everyone else combined. He probably regrets that on most days because I'm browbeating him about some employee or labor issue. But his empathy and skill, we could not be in better hands in the future. But I have one major issue about this hire. And if hopefully everyone hears the sarcasm in my voice because I'm laying it on pretty thick. I don't know if Tim could give a ruling on this, but as some of you may know, his eldest daughter, Kari, just graduated, was our #1 singles tennis player and named Michigan's Athlete of the Year. His second child, Reese, was our #1 doubles and contributed to probably one of the greatest seasons the tennis team have ever had. But I've heard about schools hiring parents to try to attract student athletes, and we have one more, their son Grant, who we hope to get here in the same capacity as a tennis player. And I hope this doesn't jeopardize that recruitment. We're okay. All right. Well, then I agree. Thank you, Santa.
Okay. Well, let's move on now, and we'll celebrate in an appropriate manner in the near future. I'd like to call upon VP for Student Life, Martino Harmon, who has comments for the new academic year.
Thank you, President Ono. I want to extend a warm welcome to all new and returning students hailing from near and far. Over the summer, the International Center hosted 6 in-country pre-departure orientation programs in 4 countries. This is more than ever before and a wonderful way to welcome our new international students. When students arrived in Ann Arbor this year, They were greeted by multiple student life offices and nearly 300 volunteers from across the university. Each year, our staff and volunteers help thousands of students move in and attend beloved Michigan traditions like Pride Outside at Ingalls Mall and Convocation in Chrysler and the picnic afterward on the Diag. This year, Michigan Dining served nearly 6,000 students in under 25 minutes. Amazing. Next weekend, we look forward to welcoming thousands of parents, families, and supporters to campus for the upcoming Parent and Family Weekend from September 27th through the 29th. Just before students arrived in August, I had the pleasure of touring the site of the new Hadley Family Recreation and Wellbeing Center, which is currently scheduled to open next fall. Also next fall, we'll welcome our campus community into the new Edward and Rosalie Ginsburg Center building to be complete. With the ongoing Central Campus residential development, which will offer more affordable on-campus housing beginning in fall of 2026. These capital projects will provide students with more spaces and opportunities to live, learn, and grow. I want to close by giving special thanks to the numerous student life staff and university volunteers who make our annual welcome events and campus programs possible. Thanks for all you do, and go Blue.
Thank you very much, Martino. We now move to the Chancellor of the Dearborn campus, Domenico Grasso.
Thank you, President Ono. I'd like to start just by pointing out, and I'm sure you're aware, that many regional public universities locally and nationally are struggling with enrollment. So that's why it is remarkable that this year we've welcomed our second largest class in our history. Last year was our first largest class, and our new FTE student enrollment has gone up 4.7% coming into our class. It also is represented by a highly qualified class. The entering GPA is 3.7, which is the third highest in the state, only behind, of course, Ann Arbor and Michigan Tech. And our four-year graduation rate over the last 3 years has increased 9%, and our six-year graduation rate has increased 2%, and our BIPOC population coming in this year is up 7%. So we're firing on all cylinders, and things are going great around student enrollment. We've also focused on media placements, which is something that I've asked our external relations team to look at, and we have a terrific team. And in the first 6 months of this year, we had 29 national media placements and 46 local placements. And recently, Hafiz Malik, who spoke to the Regents a little while ago, just wrote an op-ed on combating deep fakes in the political environment. And Pam Aronson was featured in The Atlantic concerning young adult mental health issues. And finally, earlier this week, I was very proud, along with several other leaders from our campus, to go to Lansing to receive the Innovators Award from the Michigan Veterans Affairs Agency. And one last thing I just want to say is that Netflix just released a new movie called Apollo 13 Survival, and it's a documentary, and I would encourage you to watch it, because in the scene where they are putting together the lithium hydroxide canisters to clean the air, you can see a very young Tony England off to the left of the screen. So keep your eyes peeled for that particular event. And it's his voice that is communicating the directions to the capsule. That's all I have today. Go Blue and go Dearborn.
Thank you very much. Thanks for also pointing out that as a high school student, not only would I have not been admitted to the Ann Arbor campus, I wouldn't have been admitted to the Dearborn campus. Very stratospheric GPA for your students. Congratulations, and also for the enrollment growth. That's great news. And I think Chancellor Lawrence Alexander from the Flint campus also has some great news. Over to you.
Well, yes, thank you, President Ono. We do have great news with regard to enrollment this year. We're pleased to report that enrollment is up 6.5% overall this year on the Flint campus. That dovetail on last year's enrollment increase of 2.4%, the first two increases on the Flint campus in nearly a decade. So this is great news all around for the university and for the Flint community. I'd also like to mention just a couple of things of recent successes that we've had from the U of M Flint faculty and staff in attracting grant funding and research and student support. Associate Professor of Biology, Rebecca Toniero, along with collaborators from the Chicago Botanic Garden and Chicago Parks District, recently received $1.76 million in grants from the National Science Foundation and the Paul G. Allen Family Foundation to study the effects of converting turf grass lawns into native plant species. The research will be conducted for 5 years on the U of M Flint campus in 7 park locations throughout Chicago and the Chicago Botanic Garden. In addition, Elizabeth Cunningham, Associate Professor of Mathematics Education, and colleagues at the University of Virginia and the University of Pennsylvania were recently awarded nearly $1.7 million from the U.S. Department of Education's Institute of Education Sciences. The 4-year study will focus on frameworks that translate research theory into practical learning progressions to help teachers understand how to serve their students best. The grant is the largest ever research award, with U of M Flint serving as the lead institution. And finally, I'd like to note that the Division of Student Affairs was awarded 2 Michigan Lifelong Education Advancement and Potential Department grants, the MyLeap grants, to better evaluate the student experience and increase direct-to-student support. MyLeap awarded U of M Flint $75,000 to partner with the Hope Center of the Lewis Katz School of Medicine at Temple University to assess students' basic needs at U of M Flint. The partnership provides support to collect and analyze data and develop a plan to improve students' basic needs, security, and well-being. The university was awarded an additional $177,000 to apply the findings of the basic needs assessment to directly assist students with unmet living expenses. So we're very glad to see that, very glad to have those funds, which will certainly help us to retain and graduate many of those students who we're bringing on to increase our enrollment. And with that, thank you. Go Blue and go U of M Flint.
Thank you so much. You know, you're a very humble person, but you know, this is pretty significant enrollment growth. You know, it must be the anticipation of your arrival on campus, right? It's just really a great way to join the campus and the university. So
thank you, President Ono.
We'll now turn to personnel actions. Personnel actions are in the book, along with a number of retirement memoirs, a memorial statement, and degree lists. That concludes the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Support.
Thank you. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, same sign. Anyone abstaining, same sign. Motion carries. We now go on to the Finance and Property Committee. EVP Chattis has, I think, 2 items. The first is on our long-term portfolio investment policy. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Support.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, same sign. Anyone abstaining, same sign. Motion carries. I'm assuming you don't want to make any comments, right? Wonderful. Second is on the Ross School of Business lease at the Grand in Los Angeles, California. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Support.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, same sign. Anyone abstaining, same sign. No comments, I'm assuming? Motion carries. Okay. We now move on to other items. Chancellor Grasso, on the academic calendar at University of Michigan Dearborn. Any comments?
Nothing to add, Mr. President.
Thank you, Chancellor Grosso. Is there a motion?
Move approval.
Support.
Wonderful. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, same sign. Anyone abstaining, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. Provost Macaulay has the next two items.
Nothing to add.
Okay, the first is art DX session. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Support.
Wonderful. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, same sign. Anyone abstaining, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. The next item is Department of Health Behavior and Health Education, to be renamed as the Department of Health Behavior and Health Equity, the School of Public Health. Is that wonderful? Wonderful. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, same sign. Anyone abstaining, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. Now we have the student government reports. CSG President Alifa Chaudhry is here and will give a report. Welcome.
President Ono, the Board of Regents. My name is Alifa Chaudhry. I'm the president of the student body. I don't expect you to listen to the words I have to say because why would you? Last year, hundreds of student organizations, the Faculty Senate, and thousands of alumni banded together to demand divestment from the Israeli regime. You laughed at them, closed the door on their faces, and drowned out their chants with the sound of hollow promises and rehearsed speeches. Appealing to your sympathy is not only an exercise in futility, it's dehumanizing. Regardless, I stand here today because we won't let you ignore Palestine, where at the hands of Israeli aggression, over 24,000 children have lost one or both parents. 10 children lose a limb every day. 9,000 Palestinians are held in political prisons, and every hospital and university has been reduced to rubble. All while this university proudly stands arm in arm with Israel, funding billions to the apartheid regime. Today, you vote to codify your existing investment policy that prioritizes investments in death, destruction, and dispossession. You quietly attempt to institutionalize your investment practices in hopes that doing so will allow you to escape scrutiny of students. But you can't escape us. Every day you prove to us that the University of Michigan is above all else a business that has become a necessary appendage of the U.S. war machine, a core point of repression for U.S. lawmakers, the police, and a hedge fund built to serve private equity and the financial centers of this country. Let us also not forget that over the summer, you quietly and unilaterally passed an amendment to the Statement of Students' Rights and Responsibilities, hijacking the Oscar conflict resolution process. And just last week, because you were all so afraid of the collective power that the encampment represented, you ordered the Michigan State Attorney General to bring forth charges against 11 protesters who were beaten and subjected to chemical attacks by DPSS during the raid of the encampment. In a year of so-called democracy and civic engagement, we unequivocally rebuke you and the suit and tie systemic loyalists in the university administration who consistently show their true colors as the dictators of our campus, pledging allegiance to profit while turning their backs on the people who are at the heart of the Michigan community, the people who are students, faculty, staff, workers, and community members. None of you make this school. They do. You don't make this school. One day, a time will come when the university's values are no longer held hostage to the influence of politicians and donors. We know that the only way you can repress the divestment movement on this campus is by jailing and surveilling dissenters or fostering division among organizers, hoping that the movement self-destructs. Your efforts will prove futile, and your evils will forever stain this university. We will remain steadfast in our mission to support the global struggle against imperialism and spearhead the demilitarization, decolonization, and liberation of our campus. Free Palestine from the river to the sea.
We'll now move on to public comments, which will be led by Vice President and Secretary of the University, John Kinsey.
Thank you, President Ono. We're now moving into the public speaker section of the meeting. As part of their regular agenda, Regents set aside time for individuals to present comments to the board. As a reminder, the board does not generally respond to these comments during the public session. All public board meetings are formal events convened under Article 8, Section 4 of the Michigan Constitution. In keeping with reasonable and appropriate norms of decorum, all attendees, including speakers, should treat others with respect and civility. Individuals who are approved to speak will be expected to speak to the topic that was submitted during the registration submission, truthfully disclose any relevant organizational ties during the registration submission, and promptly cease speaking after the allotted time to allow for the next speaker. Speakers who do not adhere to these guidelines will be precluded from speaking the board in future sessions. This is in addition to the guidelines published in public comment policy. With that, I'd like to welcome our first speaker, Professor Rebecca Modrak. Welcome, Rebecca.
Good afternoon, President Ono and Board of Regents. I'm the chair of SACUA, and I've signed up to speak to you on behalf of SACUA about why faculty governance and oversight matters. What I'm going to say requires more unpacking than this format permits, so if anything raises questions or concerns, I welcome a continued conversation. Our world-class faculty are the university members who have the most contact with students and who most deeply engage with questions of education and scholarship. It is through the faculty that the mission of the university is advanced, through our teaching, our research, and our service to the public and the UM community. It is therefore concerning when faculty voices are ignored. On SACUA, for example, we hear from many of those university professors from across the 3 campuses who have identified and reported violations of guidelines in order to protect our institution and ethics, only to be sanctioned by administrators who retaliate against them. Studies show that people who are willing to step forward and point out violations are, quote, good employees, extremely devoted to the organization's purpose and concerned that the misconduct they observe would undermine the organization, end quote. But we have learned that the university's legal team, even when presented with evidence of misconduct, chooses to use our institution's resources to silence the star employees who have stepped forward. The power imbalance, with faculty having very little protections, agency, and input into governance, and administrators having very little accountability or checks and balances, is causing harm to our institution and to our world-class faculty. SACUA is hearing from faculty that the perception is that the Regents are either naively unaware, badly uninformed, or ethically compromised. As another example of faculty voice being ignored during the summer, the Regents 1, ignored faculty governance in amending policies, and 2, overturned guidelines set by the university itself. The perception of the faculty we are hearing from is that the Regents do not understand the nature of the institution you oversee, have no interest in learning firsthand from faculty, and are currently trampling over the deepest traditions of academic freedom and free speech you are supposed to protect. The perception of the faculty we are hearing from is that the Regents are listening to donors and politicians who try to compromise the educational mission of our institution. The perception of the faculty is that the Regents do not respect the faculty as meaningful stakeholders in shared governance. The perception of the faculty is that the Regents may have the legal power to act as they please, but do not have the ethical authority or institutional knowledge to manage from the top. A commitment to shared governance assures a robust participatory democracy based on faculty expertise and a diversity of opinion. The university's world-class faculty is critical to our institution's prestige. Students come to the university to work with us. They do not come to Michigan to work with you. Faculty and administrative officers tend to view situations differently, and an effective university has processes that recognize and welcome this difference, not as conflict, but as opportunity for complex resolution. Regents, faculty confidence in your leadership of this institution is low. This is the right moment to listen to faculty and their representatives. Thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca. I'd like to call on our next speaker, Rebecca Woodell. Welcome, Rebecca. You have 2 minutes to speak. Thank you.
We would like to start by just saying thank you and congratulations to Dr. Miller on his new position. Good afternoon, Dr. Ono and Regents. I am Becky Waddell, Interim Chief Steward for Service Employees International Union. I am also a respiratory therapist at UH. I want to acknowledge how important it is to all U of M employees that the university took the principled position of supporting the right of employees to form unions and bargain collectively. But after 12 months of negotiating, we still do not have our first contract. You already know the stories of low-wage workers employed at Michigan Medicine who are selling plasma just to make rent or for groceries, or the respiratory therapists who had their retirement benefits and wages frozen during a respiratory pandemic. You've already heard all of this. I'm here to ask you to show the same kind of leadership that was shown when you chose to be neutral when workers organized to form the unions. It requires visiting the budget to help fund our contracts. Our contracts must reflect respect for our contribution to the care of our patients. We have to see in real, tangible ways that collective bargaining gave us not just a seat at the table, but also materially improved our lives. Thank you.
Thank you, Becky. I call upon our next speaker, Jackie Miller. Welcome, Jackie. You have 2 minutes to speak.
Alum 94. I first came to speak to you in March of this year about student safety. Along with thousands of alums who stand with the Career Coalition, I called on you to stop harassing and endangering the lives of your own student leaders. After I left this room, I went to the driveway where students gathered to be heard, protesting your investments in apartheid and genocide. Then I watched a state policeman use an iron barrier to knock down a student wearing a hijab and deliberately drag her under the barrier to make way for your SUVs. I know you're not concerned for her safety or any student's safety. Despite your rhetoric, the evidence is all to the contrary. In fact, the only violence we've seen this year has come from a few white supremacists on campus and you. When I say you, I include police and prosecutors acting at your behest. Since I last appealed to you to stop criminalizing principled protest on campus, you instigated dozens of misdemeanor and felony charges, used violent force and chemical agents to evict a people's university that was a model of true learning and community, violently attacked and arrested protesters at a die-in honoring the estimated 100,000 and counting now genocided in Gaza, censured, banned, and fired your students and staff, introduced unprecedented surveillance on campus, and over 1,100 signed the faculty letter opposing violations of your own policies. We know none of this was for student safety because you've not acted at all when student protesters for Palestine have been threatened. Your actions have been selective and politicized. Conspicuously, they are anti-Palestinian, Black, brown, Muslim, and anti-dissent. What is it you're so afraid of, having to give up profiteering on death? Divestment is an ethical mandate. Schools like Union Theological Seminary have already moved to divest, and many others are in genuine dialogue with their students. The students are not giving up because they cannot. They still have hearts that beat for our irreducible shared humanity, not political ambitions. divest, don't arrest.
Thank you, Jackie. I'd like to call upon our next speaker, Elaine Landy. Welcome, Elaine. You have 2 minutes to speak. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Elaine Landy, and I'm a lecturer in LS&A, and I've been a member of the University of Michigan community for over 16 years. And quite frankly, after sitting in this meeting, I want to stop my comments, and I do meditation with my students. And what I see going on in here hurts me. It hurts our students. I'm going to attempt to read this, and I hope, if you don't mind, shutting that off when it starts just so I can finish. I recognize I'm breaking the rules. 5 years ago, we had 5 minutes. I don't know what's happened in that time, but you can see how it's affected me, and I see how it affects my students. I am tired and disheartened with the disrespect and violence that is occurring in and around this campus. It has come from many levels at the university, from the students all the way up through the university, through the Board of Regents, including you. I don't want to sit here and yell at you and tell you things that have been wrong. It's a complex situation. I'm not even going to list the events that have led me here, which have been long in building, even before President Ono was on board. The only way I see any chance for a more respectful and peaceful community to emerge is for you, the ones who hold the legal power of this university, to make the first steps in the right direction. I ask that you find or rekindle your compassion for all. Open up to collaboration. Learn about, use nonviolent communication. Engage in and implement restorative justice practices. If you've only heard these things being thrown around in who knows what context, look into them, read about them, learn about them. Take responsibility and be explicit about those decisions you make. Stop blaming others for them, and think through how your decisions are going to impact each and every member of the community. If you are hearing this and thinking we are not being disrespectful or encouraging violence, think again. Take a good hard look at the decisions you have made and the way you've communicated them. This goes all the way back to the firing of President Schlissel and the guards on campus. I have walked through the Diag for years. It does not have the same feel that it did 5 or 10 years ago. If you're still thinking, I didn't engage in those behaviors, or I'm not responsible, or I was left with no other choices, take a long, deep look at those decisions and actions and communications that have come from the board, the president, and the unsigned University of Michigan over the last 4 years. And if you still don't see it, please reach out. I would love to engage in a dialogue, and I would like to see things on this campus move in a positive direction. Thank you.
Thank you, Elaine. I'd like to now call upon our next speaker, Ali Ulam. You have up to 2 minutes to speak. Welcome.
Good afternoon. My name is Ali Alam. I am the elected vice president of LSA Student Government, as well as the co-chair of the Muslim Coalition. I'm here today representing my own views. You all spent a lot of time today talking about the year of democracy, civic empowerment, and global engagement. But unfortunately, from my conversation with students, that's not what they're seeing on the ground. And I'd like to just paint that picture for you through 3 facts that we've observed since the beginning of this semester. Fact number 1, on the 3rd day of classes, peaceful protesters were arrested and brutalized by police at Festival. 2 black protesters were targeted and a minor was hospitalized. How exactly does this university expect students to be quote unquote global citizens when you send DPSS officers to arrest them and to brutalize them when they stand up for human rights abroad? Fact number 2, counter-protesters who are there at the protest, including non-students, occupied the same exact space that was ordered to be vacated by DPSS, and yet they face no consequences. These protesters were celebrating and laughing as the peaceful protesters, as the anti-genocide protesters were dragged out by police officers. And yet they face no consequences for violating the same policies that supposedly the anti-genocide protesters were violating. And so I ask you all today, is this what quote unquote democracy looks like? Applying these policies in an inequitable manner? Fact number 3, these arrests were enabled by policy changes approved by this very board quietly over the summer with no consultation of students or faculty, violating the very norms that were set in these documents. That includes changes to the Statement of Student Rights and Responsibilities, which destroys checks and balances in the appeals process, essentially making you all the judge, jury, and executioner against students. And so I ask you all here today, how exactly was this untransparent process reflective of democracy and civic engagement? Because the thing about civic engagement is it's not civic engagement if you're not actually engaging with the people who are at stake. And so I urge you all to ask yourselves these questions very deeply, ask yourselves who you're truly working for, and to truly shift course on that action so that students like me who are Muslim and who are pro-Palestinian don't feel vilified on this campus. Thank you.
Thank you, Ali. I'd like to now call upon our next speaker, Sarah Clark. Welcome, Sarah. You have 2 minutes to speak. Thank you.
Hi, I work here, but today I'm here as a community member and being here on behalf of my brother, Peter Clark, who is the owner of KCI Sports Publishing. In late 2023, as KCI hopefully planned a commemorative book for the football season, my brother was seeking out retailers that he could partner with to offer the book. He saw that MDen was promoted on mgoblue.com as, quote, the official retailer of the University of Michigan Athletic Department, and the shop link promoted MDen as the official team store. And so he entered into agreement with them to offer this lovely book, which he shipped within 7 days of our winning the national championship. Sales must have been brisk because MDen soon placed another order for additional books. In late March, my brother called me to say, what's up with the MDen? They haven't paid the invoice. I hadn't heard anything. I checked the website. They were still endorsed as the official retailer of athletics. He inquired by email with an associate athletic director and got kind of an opaque and not helpful response. He hired legal counsel and began the process of trying to get payment. And he raised the issues with his contacts at the Detroit News, which led to a May 22 article, the very first of what became many articles detailing MDen's financial woes. Just last week, the Free Press published a February 7, 2024 letter from Ward Manuel to Scott Hirth of MDen. That letter outlined the results of the university's audit that showed years of financial problems and stated that the athletics department was terminating its agreement with MDen to be that exclusive retail partner. And still, throughout that period, from February onward, MDen continued to be listed as the official retailer of the University of Michigan Athletics Departments up until just a couple of weeks ago. Vendors like KCI delivered products expecting that a company sanctioned as the official team store would be fiscally responsible. They haven't been paid. I know to you it's probably a small amount, but to these small vendors, it's significant. And I encourage you to look for any options to assist vendors that were financially harmed simply because they worked with the retailer the university told them to. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Regent Acker?
Yes, thank you. First of all, I just want to say, first and foremost, I actually have that book.
It's a great book. I got a copy of that book.
I think there's probably a lot of people in this room who have it. You know, I just want to say, I've heard from a lot of small vendors and larger vendors who have had the same situation. It is deeply disappointing. It is disturbing. And, you know, I think as an institution, you know, as one of those creditors, we have an obligation to understand as to what went wrong here, because ultimately, how the official retailer of Michigan athletics loses this kind of money in a year when we win the football national championship makes no sense. And so, we have to look in and do better and make sure that we don't have these situations with vendors like yourselves again, because it's deeply disappointing and frankly embarrassing to be in this situation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. I'd like to call upon our next speaker, Kate Robbins. Welcome, Kate. You have up to 2 minutes to speak. Thank you.
Good afternoon, President Ono and the Regents. My name is Kate Robbins, and I'm a physical therapist at the main hospital here in Ann Arbor. I'm also the treasurer of UMAP, which is our union of 4,500 allied professionals. Yesterday, we filed an unfair labor practice against the employer for illegal suppression of union activity and bad faith bargaining. The employer revised the dress and appearance policy in a way that prohibited employees from discussing the union at work. This is a clear violation of Michigan state law. In keeping with our usual practice, we made multiple attempts to resolve the disagreement with management. Those attempts were either completely ignored or outright rejected. Our attempts, which left us with no other choice but to file this charge. It is regrettable that we have ended up here. In addition, we started negotiating our first contract back in February. 8 weeks ago, we introduced our salary proposal. To date, we have gotten no response. At various points throughout bargaining, management has threatened to suspend bargaining if we persisted with protected activities like leafleting outside the hospital facilities. We have informed management that we hope to reach a deal by October 18th. We continue to think that this timeline is reasonable if management comes to the table and bargains in good faith. If that doesn't happen, we will be forced yet again to escalate our actions so we can secure a contract that our hardworking members deserve and have earned. Since we started this union, we have believed that our goals have aligned well with the best interests of this hospital system and with our patients. With higher pay and improved working conditions, it will increase staffing and patient access, enhance the quality of patient care, and reduce the numerous bottlenecks throughout Michigan medicine that are preventing patients from being able to get our world-class care. We ask this board to stop the anti-union initiatives and direct management to bargain with us in good faith, all of us, including SEIU, UPAM, who represents your physician assistants, and UMAP. We look forward to your response, and I thank you for your time today.
Thank you. I'd like to welcome our next speaker, Evan Cohen. Welcome, Evan. You have 2 minutes to speak.
President Ono and the University of Michigan Regents, thank you for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Evan Cohen. I'm a computer science major, a French minor, a senior, a leader in the Jewish community, and a proud Zionist. Thank you for the work you are doing to support Jewish students on campus. Here at the University of Michigan, our undergraduate student body is about 15% Jewish, which is one of the largest Jewish communities on any campus, anywhere in the world. Jewish students want to come here. I myself have benefited from the excellent academics and the wonderful community. However, this past year has been very difficult for Jewish students at Michigan. By my peers, I have been spit at, called countless obscene names, and attacked online when visiting Israel. At the same time, you, President Ono, and the Regents have been harassed in your own homes. Last year, we heard your words that anti-Semitism and supporting terrorism is antithetical to Michigan values. You reaffirmed your commitment to partnerships with Israeli universities and your commitment to not divest from Israel. This year, we have seen you take actionable steps to enforce university policies equally to hold all students accountable for unacceptable actions, ensuring Jewish students and all students feel welcome to pursue their academic aspirations. Unfortunately, there is still work to do. Last year, the University of Michigan had the second highest number of anti-Israel incidents. This matters because about 80% of American Jews feel close to Israel, the ancestral homeland of our people. As you know, just last week, a student was assaulted because he was Jewish. At the same time, the student government continues to abuse its power to harm the entire campus community, and some students are attempting to use CSG funds to support their own personal agendas. I do not want my tuition dollars to be used for this purpose. There's a long history of people looking the other way when anti-Semitism rises. It's critical to stand up for what's right, to continue putting actions behind your words, and to create an environment where students can learn without fear. President Ono, I look forward to enjoying Shabbat dinner with you at Hillel in the near future, and I would love to welcome all of the rest of the regents there as well. Thank you again. Am Yisrael Chai, and go blue.
Thank you, Evan. I would now like to welcome our final speaker, Jeremy Haley. Welcome, Jeremy. You have 2 minutes to speak.
Thank you all for having me. I'm going to read a letter to you that I wrote to the clinic manager and to my doctor at the Burlington Center over off Eisenhower on 8/22/2023. Dear clinic manager, I'm writing to ask for reconsideration in signing the verification and disability form. In July, I dropped off the form off to the front desk. Some days later, I received a call to come pick it up, the letter, and have my PCP fill it out and sign. I did what was asked of me. I called the PCP office. Nurse called me back and explained the situation to her. This was on 8/8/2023. She told me they will get back with me. It is now 8/20/22/23. Still no return call. Attached with this letter is a copy of the letter sent to me from my U of M doctor at that time, Dr. Cooper. The third paragraph says, please be assured my colleagues will be available for you to ensure your medical needs are met after my departure. He was fired from the University of Michigan, and I'll tell you why in a second. It goes on to show 3 names that I can continue my care with. Part of my medical needs is having on occasion paperwork to be done so that I can obtain proper housing. I am in a low-income housing program, and as such, the NGO overseeing requires certain paperwork be filled out and returned. I am disabled, collect SSD, so therefore the NGO requires paperwork that state of Michigan paperwork, valid state of Michigan, to verify this. With this verification, I am able to receive reasonable housing accommodations, meaning that I can get a home that best fits my medical needs. Also attached are the verification disability form and a disability parking placard application. What these 2 forms have in common are they need doctor signatures. One provides reasonable accommodations for housing, and the other provides reasonable accommodations for parking. I am not asking for disability parking placard to be signed. I am asking for the verification and disability form so that I can get reasonable accommodations in that housing. I never got that form back. Right now, the University of Michigan medical system is in violation of Americans with Disability Act. Whoever is running this over there does not want, it's their new policy. Who makes up the policy? They are in clear violation. When I went and turned all this stuff in on 8/22, I was told Dr. Wade Cooper was let go because he was doing things the team didn't approve of. That's absurd. Is it high school behavior? They're supposed to be doctors, okay? It's absurd, this situation. Dr. Cooper, another U of M doctor got my auto insurance yanked from me, medical coverage. I went to another doctor who went and trained here. She wouldn't say nothing because she went and trained here for the loyalty of the institution. This is in 2015. Then in 2016, I was assigned to Dr. Cooper. From him, I felt he cared about my situation. what I was going through. He helped me get my auto insurance back once. I was sent off to an IME, an independent medical exam, for the auto insurance, which they do very often to try to kick you off. And in this one in 2019, they did. This doctor said, well, oh. And I gave it, you know, the virus came around, so I wasn't able to give this to Dr. Cooper in person or in the office. I gave, can I please finish?
Please finish.
He took the time to read that and got my auto insurance reinstated because Medicare, Medicaid doesn't pay for certain things that the auto insurance would under that. He took the time to do all those things, advocate for me. And the University of Michigan fired him because he was doing things that they didn't approve of. I gotta say, he was a great advocate for me. And by them denying signing this paperwork, I just feel they don't want people who are Medicare, Medicaid, because since this time, everybody's just said, just leave the university medical system. Go to a doctor that will sign it. I shouldn't have to. And I'm sorry I went over, but thank you. But you all need to know this is a serious issue. Because right now, on May 7th, I went for a crown lengthening. My whole right side of my face swollen up because of the right occipital neuralgia. The periodontist, resident periodontist, he freaked out. He never saw, or nobody at that time saw anything like that. I couldn't see out of my right eye. He sent a letter a couple weeks later to my doctor at the Burlington Center. Say, hey, how do we proceed with his dental care? She just didn't get back not till August 20th, not till after August 9th when I had a checkup with him. He gave me the actual email paper that he sent her that I actually dropped that off at the office. This is unreasonable for doctors. Just because you get a medical degree doesn't make you a doctor. It's how you treat your patients. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeremy. Mr. President, that concludes all the speakers.
Thank you. Regent Hubbard, I think you...
Yeah, thank you. I just want to point out the public has an opportunity to provide written comments to us through an online portal. And being from the Lansing area, I just wanted to thank a couple people who did that related to what's going on at U of M Sparrow, related to our efforts to build a mental health facility. So we appreciate the comments. It's a good opportunity for people who can't make it to the meeting, and I just acknowledge that we've taken a look at them and hope to deal with this in the near future.
Thank you very much, Regent Hubbard. All right, with that, today's meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much for attending, everyone.